Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to Biselleh Torah, and this week we are reading the parsha called Lecha. It's God's call to this man who is known to us as Avram, later to become known as Abraham. In the last week's parsha, we were introduced, even before we got to the Torah reading itself, about Noah, that Noah was Ish Tamim, tzaddik b'toratav. He was a perfect individual, a tzaddik, a just man in his own era. And with that very broad brush stroke, here we have on the scene Noah, who is called by God to build a giant boat where he is going to be the rescuer of the animal kingdom and then reinvigorate the world with his seed and repopulate the universe from a second time, first from Adam and now from him. Now this week's Torah portion is markedly different in its approach to this unknown individual, Avram. We are not given any indication of who he is before we arrive at this Torah reading. Before, like a drum roll, we were introduced to Noah. But now, nothing. All we have is Lecha, get up and go, is the call to Avram. Who's he? Who's Avram? Where did he come from? What did he do for a living? What did he look like? Why did God call him? Why him of all people did God lay his hands on him and give him the charge? All this is a mystery. I mean, granted, there are many midrashim, stories that abound about why God elected him as opposed to anybody else. You know the wonderful stories about how he was the son of an idol maker, how he discovered God. There's other stories about how he looked at the luminaries at night and figured they must be God, but when the sun went down, it had to be the moon, and when the moon disappeared, it had to be the sun, and he realized somebody had to be pulling the strings of the universe, and it certainly wasn't the sun or the moon or the stars, since they came and they went. But all these stories, not found in the Bible itself, we don't have a clue why Avram was chosen. Which is why I want to bring you to a Hasidic understanding of why, perhaps, the story begins with Avram, the story, the progenitor, ultimately, of Judaism. There are 10 tests that God puts Avram through. The first test is, Lecha, get up and go. I'll let you know when you're there. Trust abounds in his willingness to be able to pick up his bags, take his family, and travel to an unknown destination. Later on, he's called upon to sacrifice his son. Another time, he's called upon to listen to his wife Sarah against his better wishes, which weren't better ultimately. A series of tests, one after another, Abraham is put through the cauldron of fire time and again, and emerges on the other side, having made distinctive choices that indicate that God was not wrong, that God indeed had chosen the right person to be the founder of a brand new faith, the founder of a brand new people, and to lead the world in a new direction, one that they had seemingly steadfastly avoided until now. We become who we are when we're tested, when things don't go our way. How do we behave when somebody treats us poorly? How do we behave when we're fired indiscriminately from a job, or when someone attacks us? What is our response? How do we work in the world? Are we honest? When money's put on the table and no one's looking? What do we do when we're undercharged for something going out of the grocery store? We're constantly tested time and again. And I think that's ultimately why we read the story of Avram and not told about why God chose him, because God makes a decision based upon Avram's behavior. And every day, God makes a decision about us based upon ours. Shabbat Shalom.